The Building Brands podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who has successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Legal Leader series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Michael Poropat, partner and attorney with Stockman Poropat. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here.
Yeah. It's our pleasure to have you. I just want to start, with a little bit of background context. Tell us a little bit about Stockman Poropat and, what makes the firm unique.
Sure. So Stockman Porapat's relatively new. We opened up in 2022. My partner and I actually met when we were both at a BI firm. I was an attorney. He was a paralegal. We both fell in love or were already in love with intellectual property and video games and copyrights and stuff like that. Connected over that, went our separate ways. 3-4 years later, kind of came back, and he wanted to start a firm. I wanted to start a firm. I was like, let's start it. So we ended up being just basically a boutique law firm for entrepreneurs. We tell ourselves and we market that we practice entrepreneurial law, which makes a lot of sense. Essentially, we are in-house counsel for companies that can't afford actual in-house counsel or don't want to pay for actual in-house counsel, and we operate as an ad-needed basis for all these people. So we do everything from copyright and trademark, contract laws. We're getting into estate planning now with a whole nother branch. We've grown to 4 attorneys over the last 3 years, and we just keep on moving on. And we're very happy with not only how everything is going, but how stressless our jobs are compared to when we work for other people.
Absolutely. So, the fractional space is a really, really thriving segment of the B2B marketplace for legal firms. So talk to me a little bit more about what the average client looks like for you in terms of the size of the company, revenue, tenure, things like that.
It can vary pretty greatly. I've had clients that, I currently have clients that are in the process of starting their first ever side gig, right? Where they're looking to hopefully make a couple $100 every month kind of thing. And I have clients who just closed out multi-million-dollar asset purchase agreements. So we have people from all stages of their business careers. I would say the average client is probably a 1 to 3 million annual revenue e-commerce seller who started off as a side gig and now it's just kind of their full-time job.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So how have you acquired some of these new clients? What's the typical kind of strategy there?
So we kind of split all of our marketing efforts into 2 categories, right? So we kind of split into name recognition and name reputation. And this isn't groundbreaking. It's just the way that we visualize the marketing landscape for us, right? So name recognition being how many times someone sees your name, right? We want them to see our name and then go, oh yeah, that's that person, right? So ideally, they have a conversation with someone, oh, what firm did you use? Stockman Poropat. Oh yeah, I've heard of that, right? They might not know about us, they might not know what we do, but that name is familiar to them. Like that's, one aspect of it. And that's mostly your marketing arbitrage, putting everything in social media posts, and newspaper posts, and getting out these ads and donations and all these things to kind of get the name out there, right? And then 2 is name reputation, right? Which is what people think of when they see your name, which I think is the most important part of any business. If you do not have a good reputation, you don't have a good business. It doesn't matter how good your marketing is. If you have a bad reputation and you're marketing well, you're just spreading around your bad reputation. So you're killing it more than you are helping it. All right. So our focus is always from the inside out. We do the kernel to the popcorn, if you will. So we always focus on making sure our quality of product is top notch. Nothing goes out of our office without being at least as good as our competitors, if not better. And that goes a long, long way. I think marketing is very complex. It can definitely be complex, and taking in new clients and finding new clients is hard. But I think a lot of times you need to kind of oversimplify this, because especially young law firms, when they go into the marketing pitch, their thought process is, I need to get 1,000 people to look at me. And if, 2 of those people sign and I tell them at $2,000, that's $4,000 a month. And that's my salary that I was making at my last law firm, right? That's always like the mindset. I need that like small 2%, where our mindset is more along the lines of, I don't really care what we're making on it. I want to know what the client needs out of it and support them up. Now, obviously there's a business side to this, so I have to care about, what we're making on it. But my point being is I'm not looking to get, 1,700 people in the door and sell 2 of them. I want 2 people to come into my office and I want to close 4. And I do that by reputation. I do that because they're coming here a warm lead, whether they like it or not, and I mean that in the sense that they might be coming as a warm lead because they're from a referral or because someone else worked with us, or they might be coming as a warm lead because they Googled us, but then when they looked into everything that we do, they became a warm lead because they see all of our posts showing all of our knowledge and our articles that help with their particular issue, and our Facebook groups that we're giving advice on for free, and all the donations and stuff that we do. Like, we automatically become part of their family essentially through that process. So they walk in our door warm already, which makes our jobs a hell of a lot easier.
Definitely. And that it's a lot of information there, right? And there's some really, really good tidbits. No, it's actually really good. There's a lot to unpack there. And there's some really strong tidbits in there. The thing that I love that you said that's so important is you could have a poor reputation, or which ultimately is a poor reputation usually stems from a poor product or poor quality of work or inconsistent quality of work at the very least. And no amount of marketing in the world can fix that. And I think sometimes we forget about that, and also the importance of maintaining that reputation over time, which becomes more and more challenging as the firm continues to scale. It takes a lot of process implementation beyond just, hey, when you had more control over direct at-line output going out the door every day. And it's easier to obviously maintain QA on the output when you're the one performing the majority of the work going out the door, which becomes harder as you begin to scale, for new attorneys, so on and so forth. So I wanted to kind of dial that back and dig a little bit deeper into the marketing strategy. So what types of messages or offers do you find creates the best or the most frequent entry points to new prospects? What are the things that speak to them the most in terms of your marketing messaging or any particular offer you roll out there?
So as an intellectual property firm, primarily, we do a lot of different things, but IP is really the focus. Education is probably the biggest part of everything, right? Because clients don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times the clients will come to us because they saw somebody else's ad for a trademark. They didn't know what it was. They Googled it. We're local. We come up really high on the SEO. And they're like, let me just call them and ask, right? So sometimes they're calling us and being like, what is this and do I need it, right? So education is a massive part of that. And so a lot of our marketing efforts are based around providing that education for free. And not necessarily selling as much as it is just helping. And that kind of goes to the core of what we are as a firm. One of the reasons we started the firm to begin with is both my partner Travis and I didn't like where we were because we were not able to get the gratification of knowing we're really helping somebody that needs it, right? I was helping, take your pick between, multi-billion-dollar insurance agencies or multi-million-dollar doctors who saw our income as, toilet paper excess income. So I wasn't getting any, gratification out of that. And he was in a similar situation. So when we went here, we're like, look, we don't want to treat clients like clients. We want to treat clients like friends. We want to be able to see them grow, them help, do those things, right? So that's always been our mindset. And our marketing stems from that. We get the most amount of interactions by far from asking questions of people and answering the questions that they don't know for them. Things like, all right, do you have an LLC for your business? No. Okay. Do you know what this is? Can I help? Well, whatever. And doing that for 5 minutes at a networking event is so powerful. So powerful.
100%.
And again, I don't do it to sell. I do it because that's what we want to do. It's how we want to help. Scaling that is insane though, because there's only one of me and one of him. And, how do you get that across the masses? And I think that's where, articles, social media, Facebook posts, Facebook groups, stuff like that really helps, because you're able to kind of establish yourself as an expert. You're able to establish yourself as a human, who actually wants to help people without selling anybody, without actually putting any kind of a real offer or a bad taste in anyone's mouth with a money offer or anything like that. All the while coming off like a saint. Again, not that I'm pretending to be a saint. This is just what we do, but that's the perception you get from this.
Yeah,
And being able to assist people. And you know what? Not everyone's going to hire us from that. A lot of people will take that information and run, and good for them, because those are the people who are going to use LegalZoom anyway. I'm not
sure.
after you.
Yeah,
I'm after the people who actually need my help, not the people who just want to take free advice. So I think
yeah.
the free information and the free advice is really the biggest ticker that comes back to it.
I 1000%, that's what I would have guessed if you asked me, right? Like, and I want to add one to the mix of the platforms that you were talking about, where this advice really allows you to build the brand reputation and the brand expertise. Reddit, I think, is another up and coming, well, not up. I mean, it's been established, but it's going to become a more major player, because we know, well, we hypothesize in the SEO industry that it's a major connection to LLMs. It's like when the internet started, right? Everything we say we know really is just a educated hypothesis right now in the last 2 years of AI prevalence as it relates to AI and LLMs. You know what I mean?
It's accurate. And it's, I have a very, very, very good friend who built his entire law firm off of doing Reddit AMAs.
Oh yeah.
When I was in law school, he was doing that, and I did one with him. It was a blast too.
Yeah.
It's you have to have some thick skin. It's a different beast than just regular social media. It is its own environment, and I love it. I'm on Reddit all the time, but man, you have to have some thick skin. You got to be able to make fun of yourself if you're going to do that.
Definitely. And you're going to have a lot more anonymous context to it, so that naturally people get a little bit more courageous and outspoken and things like that. They might not do if their face is on the profile and it says Robert Royer, but one of the things I like that you touched on, that is the importance of education and information, and using that to really build that trust and consideration in the middle of the funnel for the consumer journey. Because I think that's so critical with a firm like yours, because there is this like commoditized product out here with LegalZoom and Trademarkia and some of these other platforms that, you can go and purchase a product, but you're not going to get, and even LegalZoom, when they say, oh yeah, you got an attorney and you're going to, anyone that's ever used LegalZoom knows how that works. It's far from a dedicated attorney that's going to be the equivalent of what it is when you contract with a firm like yours, and using that kind of real person component of education, information, and consideration to stand apart is the number one most critical thing right now that will make you stand apart, in my opinion, in an industry like yours that, some companies like LegalZoom are commoditizing, I feel like, to a certain degree, and there's going to be buyers out there for that, and that's fine. It sounds like that is not your typical client nor your target client, right?
Yeah, no, again, we want friends that happen to be clients. That's the goal.
Yeah, very cool, Michael. Well, so you started in 2022. We're going on 3 years. By the time this episode publishes, it'll be 2026. We're recording this right before the holidays of 25. So what's kind of the first largest pain point you've experienced in that time frame?
The largest pain point, without question, is quality assurance with growth, which you've already brought up. You know what? They're related, but that and time. And as I get older, I feel my mortality a little bit more. Specifically just in how limited the time that I have is, not just necessarily on this earth, but just like on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of insane.
Sure.
But those two things are massive factors, and being able to have a team underneath us that we've built and trusted so well. We've had 8 employees, about 8 employees now, and we've never fired anybody. We've never had to, which is great. Never really had to have any disciplinary actions. We've been very happy with all the people that we have. Everyone that we hire has been on a great learning curve. They're always eager to learn. They're always getting better at things. So putting that staff around us has made a massive difference, because now we have things that we can hand off to people that we would normally handle.
Very powerful.
We just don't have the time to do. And that's probably the hardest part of growing any business, but especially as a law firm, because not only are you a service-based business, for the most part, you're a time-based business. And that's hard because you have to generally make a decision between, am I going to make money or am I going to work on the business? And it's so hard to say no to money to grow the business or to streamline the business or to better the business one way or the other, because if I worked on this, I would make $1,000. If I worked on this, I probably won't make anything. But you have to kind of sit there and really analyze and be like, look, if I put time into the business, that's going to come back tenfold over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. If I put time into this money, this person, I'm going to get $1,000 now. That's kind of the decision you kind of have to make between it. So having to be able to shift that was a huge pain point and something that I think we will forever be dealing with. I don't think it's ever something that's going to go away. It's just going to kind of like lessen and change in terms of what things we're trying to push off. But that's the hardest part. And I love my partner to death, but he definitely has a harder time with that than I have. But it's not easy because every time you pass something off and the quality isn't quite as good as we would do it, and it's like, well, why don't we do it? I'm like, well, that's not our job anymore. Like, we can't be that person. We have to be able to push it out so that we can be the person shaking hands or fixing those problems or growing the company. And that's so much easier said than done.
Definitely. And it becomes even more of a challenge when your, hourly billable is likely the highest in the organization, so it's not just there's like a lot of different things ticking every time you're trying to figure out, what's the proper delegation here. But you're absolutely right. It will hinder scalability to not get ready to at some point. And in the marketing agency business, it's the same. Operationally, it's like some of the same logistics and hourly billables and things like that, on top of on project-based fees that are essentially based upon an hourly estimate anyway. So it's all hourly billables at its core. One of the things that I think occasionally that the added pro of delegation is occasionally you find someone who can do it better in some areas. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and giving up that control, sometimes you find a strength that you maybe didn't know exist, or in an even better scenario, that person didn't know exist. And they got into it and did it and realized, hey, I'm pretty darn good at this. And they actually liked doing it. And guess what? Now you have a very happy, empowered team member, and and this brings me to the point of what it sounds like you were really getting at with your team has been, y'all do a very deep vet on the intake process, where when someone comes in and they join the team, it sounds very similar to our culture, where everybody wants to be better and develop their professional skill set and grow around each other. And nobody wants to be the one that's requiring someone else to pick up the slack from their end, because they don't want that to be vice versa on the other way around, which is really critical that I think a lot of people don't do, because it's really easy to go, hey, I have this open role. I need to get a body in here because there's this work that's surmounting over here. And it sounds like y'all are pretty thorough on the intake process, not for new clients. I'm referring to team members, to staff, right?
Yeah. So it's so thorough, in fact, that I think the shortest amount of investigation time we've done on an employee is 2 years. And that's primarily because every single person that we've hired has been someone we've worked with at a prior firm.
And that works really well.
Good friends and stuff. It works really well. We are. I particularly am of the mindset of, generally anybody can do a job. What's really important about the hire is making sure that you bring the right reputation, the right attitude, the right mindset to the team, because one bad person will drop the productivity of everybody in that office so quickly.
And the morale, they'll cannibalize the morale, right?
Yeah, and that goes down to the clients as well. It goes down to referral sources. It goes down to everybody. So that, to me, has always been primary thing number one. So we've always focused on people who we know are going to mesh really well. As a result, we pretty much just have like 8 versions of me in the office. So not a lot of diversification in that sense. We're all just kind of gaming nerds, and we just want to kind of have fun, but we all put a lot of good forth effort into it. But yeah, we take that really seriously. We're in the process now of potentially hiring somebody else. And it's the first time we're really going to have to look into it outside of our inner circles, like legitimately. And so we are taking it very slowly and doing a very deep dive into what we want and who we're looking for and how we're going to find them, for that exact reason, because we know this is going to be different than every other time we've had. But yeah, we take that very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talked about your largest challenge. What are one of the largest wins over the past, several years?
Just honestly, how seamlessly the physical space has grown. So when we started the law firm originally, it was just me and my partner. My thought process and his thought process were a little bit different. His thought process was he wanted to grow a traditional law firm, and my thought process was let's just make a 2020 remote law firm. Like everyone's going to be remote, we'll do everything on the side all the time. And he was very adamantly against that. We ended up getting a physical space um, out on a main street in our main town right over here in Limbrook, right on the highway. I say the highway. It's a busy street that they call a highway. It's not a highway.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be very well. We had a lot of reputation and client stuff from that. And we just moved to another new office. And we were very concerned that moving to the new office would be detrimental to our firm because we've come so accustomed to having this big sign on Sunrise Highway, and everyone
Yeah.
drives hundreds of thousands of cars a day drive past it. It was free advertising. It was great. We had walk-ins all the time. We're like, this is gonna hurt. But we had to move for a bunch of different reasons. But we moved into the new space, and we have had more clients in that building than we've ever had in the old building. And the primary reason is because A, everyone in that area knows us now and they know where we are. And B, we are now in a primarily walking based area. So there is a lot of small mom and pop shops, pizzerias,
Yeah.
restaurants, jewelry stores, that kind of thing, which is so much more valuable than the driving that we've realized. Because when someone drives by and they call, we basically just have phone call. It's not even phone call. They Google us. They see probably just our Google reviews, which are fantastic, by the way, but they're just Google reviews. So they
Yeah.
see our Google reviews and then they call us and try to schedule an appointment. So, you're adding a step to that sales process. Someone walks by the office, they see you, they didn't even look at the Googles, they just walk in, they're immediately meeting us. That's so much easier for us to sell and to intake than
Yeah.
anything else. That it makes the conversion process a lot more simple. And so that is a surprising big win to me.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say so. And it's really interesting because law firms typically probably don't get a lot of walk-in traffic, especially law firms in a specific niche like yours, right? Compared to criminal or something like that, that I suspect get more. So that's a really good win. Congratulations. I mean, it sounds like the firm has really been budding and it's doing really good work. I did see the Google reviews. I think it's like 220 or 230 plus,
Yes.
which is a lot in a relatively short time frame since 2022. So hey, you're doing great things, Michael. One last question: what is a good book you would recommend to other law firm entrepreneurs out there, service-based
Oh,
entrepreneurs in general?
I wish you would have asked me that before I hopped on. Let me see if I can see one. Hang on. There's a lot of books over here. Um, General entrepreneur book or law specific?
We could go either way.
Okay. General entrepreneur book. Would highly recommend Rocket Fuel. I'm sure you've probably heard of that one. Yeah, that's a good book. For a law
I
specific
haven't
one,
read it though, so give us a quick little
read it.
one sentence why.
It pretty much explains very, I don't want to say very concisely because it's a pretty large book, but it does a really good job explaining exactly how to streamline the company, right? Because when we build a business, we are always looking at it from the employee standpoint because that's how we've been, the majority of us, how we've been groomed, right? We've always been an
Yeah,
employee. So we're always looking at it for how does the work get done? How does the work get done? How does the work get done? Then we own a business and it's like, all right, the work's getting done. Now where's the work? Right? Because now, like, who's giving me the work? I don't have a client or
yeah.
someone to give me the
Or
work,
where's
right?
the
So
people?
then you have to kind of shift it, and then we had that discussion before, where you're like, "Well, do I spend my time here? Do I spend my time there?" That book does a really good job of identifying I think there's 7 that they put it in, different roles of a business owner in general, and how sometimes one person is all those roles, sometimes it's split up, sometimes you can delegate things, but it's so important to understand all 7 of those roles, where those boundaries are, and be able to say, okay, I'm within these 2 lines, my partner's within these 2 lines, and give you guys each other the space to be
Oh yeah,
able to operate without stepping on each other's toes. And it's especially important for partnerships. And I made my partner read this too, and he liked it. but it's especially useful for partnerships. But even as a solo, and again, beyond law firms, even as a solo, it allows you to understand the different hats and not cross them over, right? Like if I'm doing branding and marketing should be closely linked together, but I
Mm-hmm.
should not be focusing on marketing while I'm focusing on branding, right? I need to focus on one thing or another. And that's entirely different than customer service, although again, related in certain forms. So when you're focusing on different things throughout your day, it allows you to really segment what it is you want to work on and makes it so much easier to set goals and set tasks and actually accomplish those things, as opposed to just kind of working for the sake of working, which is like the biggest poison. Working for the sake of working and procrastinating for perfection are the two worst possible things you can do as a business owner. Just freaking do it and do something that's important. Those are the best advice I can give you.
No doubt. This
Um,
is good information, Michael. One last question. I know I said that was the last question. Where can
no, it's
our
fine.
listeners and viewers find out more about Stockman and Poropat online?
So our website is stockmanporopat.com, no and in the middle. And we are Stockman Poropat on all the socials. You can find us all on there. If you Google us, we will show up, and hopefully it'll be positive things that you see. And very similar to what we've been talking about before. I have no problem talking to people. Anyone ever has any questions or anything about anything that I said, or just wants to pick my brain, I am more than welcome to hop on a call and just chat about stuff, much like I'm doing here.
Yeah, Mike. I was just about to say, Michael, you've been a great guest, and I mean, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and there's been some good highlights in this conversation. So, thanks again for being on the show, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks so much, Rob. I really do appreciate it.